We're at the spot where one of the most horrific mob killings of all time took place.
It happened on Valentine's Day in 1929. It later became known as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. We got a lot to tell you about it. We're going to show you the site, and we cordially invite you to come along for the adventure.
Come along. On February 14th, 1929, mob boss Bugs Moran and his Northside gang were supposed to meet right here to get a good deal on alcohol. However, fortunately for Bugs, he was actually sick. So he ended up driving by a bit late and he saw a policeman nearby and said, nope, not going there. And he went to go grab himself a coffee.
Right over there, which we'll get a closer look at it. Starbucks coffee it is now. At the time, it was obviously something else. But here is where the garage was, the headquarters for the Northside gang, or a place where they kept a lot of their liquor. There's some pictures that you can clearly see online. This building right here. Their garage set right up next to this building in this area right here. And then we'll use these trees over here as markers for probably where the right-hand side, when you're looking at the building, was. Which would mean that that tree back there is about the spot where this famous St. Valentine's Day wall was located and the men were killed.
Around 10:50 a.m., two men dressed as police officers walked through the back over there by the building. And two guys who were not dressed in uniforms came through right here.
Probably wearing the old suit and tie as all these gangsters used to wear. The door would have been right in this area behind Heather here. The men came in, hid out in an office room right in here. Wow. The fake police officers were searching the men, taking their guns away, and lining them up against the wall that is now known, of course, as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre wall, the brick wall there. At that point, they signaled the two men from out here. They had been putting together their machine guns and getting ready to go on in there. They just began firing about 70 rounds all through all 7 of them. The men laid there dying. Then the two police officers, along with the other 2 men, left. The police officers were holding guns to their backs and marched them out as if they were police arresting someone, to try to give the idea that the police had everything under control. Of course, at that point, they did not. Now, one person was still alive. A man by the name of Frank Gusenberg had crawled about 20 feet from the wall towards the door when police arrived. They asked him who had done it. Of course, he stuck with the code of silence and wouldn't tell them anything.
And a couple hours later, he passed away. Gusenberg had been shot 14 times and still had 7 slugs inside his body when police arrived. He was alive for 3 hours after the shooting. George Bugs Moran saw the fake police car and, thinking it was a police raid, ended up at this coffee shop here while the massacre was happening. The murderers destroyed his Northside gang, which never was the same again. An Outlook crew was hidden in one or both of these buildings right here across the street from the SMC Cartage garage. Apparently, they had been hiding out here for several weeks before the day of the massacre. On Valentine's Day morning, they made a mistake, thinking one of the men who entered the garage was Bugs Moran and gave the order for the attack, not realizing their main target wasn't even there. You can still see the markings on this building from where the top of the garage used to press up against it. While there are many conspiracy theories of who may have been the mastermind behind this vicious attack, one stuck out the most. It was Al Capone and his Southside gang. However, he had not been in the area at the time this vicious attack occurred. He was at his house in Florida several days prior to. And actually, when this attack was happening, he was talking to the district attorney of Florida.
Yeah, so they know for sure that Capone didn't pull the trigger. He wasn't even here. However, he must have given permission if it was his men who did it, which more than likely, that's exactly who did it. Machine Gun Jack McGurn was very upset with some of the Northsiders. That would include Peter and Frank Gusenberg. Those 2 brothers had attempted to kill Machine Gun Jack on 2 different occasions. Could he have been doing this for revenge and got permission from Capone to do it? Quite possible. Also, some shipments of alcohol, liquor, whiskey were being stolen from Al Capone at the time. Could it have been because of that? Who knows? But it did happen, and it probably was Capone and his men.
Before the massacre, Capone was actually pretty well liked around Chicago. He was a bit of a celebrity, But even though he was one of the richest men in the country, either his greed or his thirst for revenge got in the way. This event really hurt him and his gang. By 1930, he was considered public enemy number 1 by police and newspapers throughout the country. After the massacre, a couple opened up an antique business here, apparently somehow not realizing what had happened in the building. They found out quickly as they had more tourists showing up than actual customers, and they eventually closed up shop. Then, in 1967, the building was torn down. But before the building was demolished, the brick wall was sold to a man named George Patey, and eventually he sold it to the Mob Museum in Las Vegas, where we took the pictures of the wall when we visited the museum. Despite this being the site of one of the most famous mob hits of all time, Chicago continues to try to act like it never happened. There are no markers or indications of any kind that the event took place here, even though it is a huge part of Chicago history. This incident marked the beginning of Al Capone's catastrophic downfall.
Yeah, he was kind of well liked for a while there. People wanted their alcohol, quite frankly. People wanted to be able to drink. They wanted to be able to party, have some fun. During Prohibition, this gave Al Capone and the gangsters a great opportunity here. And people kind of let their violence slide when it was just violence between gangsters. Of course, at this one, there were some differences. For one thing, usually the press would put out an X to mark the spot where someone died, but at this one, they showed the actual victims laying on the ground. That upset a lot of people. On top of that, there were just so many people killed at this event. The public started saying, look, we're not going to put up with this just to be able to drink. Wasn't too long after that, of course, that drinking became legal again. Al Capone went to prison. A lot of things kind of went downhill for the gangs. Y'all be sure to, well, first of all, check down below, watch some more of our Al Capone videos.
Yeah.
And then be sure to hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell so you can come along with us on future adventures.
Come along.